welcome to episode 68 of the Squeeze Baseball Podcast. Michael, this is a special one.
Yes, it is, Tyler. Yes, we are in the middle of the playoffs right now, obviously, number one. Number two, baseball is fun. We love that. And number three, Tyler, you brought a friend.
I did. We actually have a very special guest today. Today I am joined by John Jakiemiec, the owner and head coach of the DuPage Pistol Shrimp.
This is where the noisemakers come in. You got to dub in the whoop, whoop, whoop.
Oh, yeah. No.
Hit the air horn.
That's it.
The soundboard's going to be going off for this one. It's a pleasure to have you, man. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot. It's an exciting time in baseball. There's a lot going on as we wrap up the playoffs heading into the World Series. And, in baseball in general, I know that's some of the things we're going to be covering on the ground today on today's show. But looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Man, I'm as myself, who's someone who, works with a prospect league team, and I get to experience that side of baseball. I'm really excited for our audience to, get to see that part of baseball as well. Before we start today, as Michael mentioned, we are deep in the playoff run right now. So before we start, I got to know what's your opinion on this World Series matchup, man? Last night, the Dodgers beat the Braves in Game 7 to move on to the World Series. What's your opinion of this postseason so far?
My opinion, I'm actually born and raised in Michigan, so I grew up a Tigers fan. But I've lived in Northern California for the past 30-plus years, so all my children have grown up Giants fans. So my opinion is anybody but the Dodgers, if you're from Northern California. I will be cheering. I'll be cheering for the Rays for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, I'm not a Dodgers fan given where I live. And number two, I actually have a young man that I coached when he was in high school and played college baseball, but he's actually working for the Rays in their analytics and scouting department. So it's so I got a personal dog in the fight when it comes to what the Rays have done, and obviously what they're doing in their player development system is certainly paying some dividends for them. So, but I would say this: if I were a betting man, which I'm not, I'd probably lean towards the Dodgers. If for no other reason, they tend to put the ball in play a little bit more than what the Rays have done. Although, obviously the Rays are an exciting young team with some hot players. So it should be a good matchup. I'm actually really looking forward to having it feel like a World Series again as we get into the fall. So it almost, as strange as it sounds, it feels normal to me because it's baseball in the fall, the October Classic.
Yeah, despite this weird 60-game season, these playoffs have felt real. This feels like real baseball. This feels like as much as we could hope for out of a competitive atmosphere. We've seen a full-length series in both the division series and the championship series so far. And, yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. We are seeing the two best teams play right now. We really are. This Rays team, I'll admit I'm a diehard Yankees fan at heart, despite being from St. Louis. And, this Rays team and their ability to find these guys who, we might consider, lower on the radar, or, no-name guys, and just turn them into studs or find the ability they already had has just been incredible. It's been really cool so far. John, I would like to know more just about your connection to baseball in general and, how you got to where you are today with the Pistol Shrimp.
Yep. So, as I said, I grew up in Michigan, and my dad was a high school baseball coach for 40-plus years. So I've always played baseball. I actually went to college to play football and played football in college, but circled back with baseball when I started to have kids. Again, that's a very typical arc, right? You have kids, they're little league age, you volunteer to coach, and next thing you know, I'm coaching high school baseball, and working with kids that are trying to play beyond high school and get into college. And I ended up meeting a guy in Chicago by the name of Mark Sheehan, who has a baseball academy in the Naperville area. I had a couple of college players that I was working with in California that wanted to play summer baseball, but they wanted to play it in a competitive league that, would give them some exposure to some scouts and so forth. So I was aware, obviously, of the Prospect League and its history as a summer collegiate league in the Midwest. So I reached out to Mark and said, hey, Mark, can what do you think? Do you know any Prospect League teams? And he said, yeah, I know. I've got a good relationship with a couple of teams. Let me call the owner. So he called the owner of the Terre Haute Rex, and Terre Haute said, yeah, we can take those players, but what we really want to do is we're trying to get a franchise in the Chicago area into the Prospect League because it fits into our league's footprint, our history as what was at one time the Central Illinois Collegiate League, the old CICL, which I've had players, coaches that coach with me in California that actually played in the CICL. So with that, that was 2.5-3 years ago. We kicked the tires on, does it fit into our player development model? And obviously, I'm a baseball lifer. I've been coaching it for a long time and love the game. But I looked at it and said, hey, this is an opportunity for me to coach summer baseball where it's not a 6-month season. It's a short season where, my wife might still let me back in the house at the end of the summer because it's not going to be, gone, for 6 months out of the year. So all kidding aside, we said, yeah, we'd love to do it. And we were originally supposed to come into the league, into the Prospect League and play. Our first season was actually supposed to be this past summer in 2020. But late in the fall of 2019, the commissioner, Dennis Bastian, called me and said one of the new teams that was going to be added for 2019 wanted to do another year of fundraising, and they really needed us to step up and join the league in 19. So we agreed to do that. So it's basically pour water on it, find a ticket vendor that can, map your stadium and get out there and, hope somebody in the community appreciates what you're trying to do and come out and support baseball. So when we got started, it really was a whirlwind. And all of these summer collegiate teams, they're small businesses, and that's what we are. So we've got on the operations side, all the same expenses and needs that most small businesses have in terms of finding customers, finding sponsors, how do you make it fun and engaging for the fans, all that, all the way down to, to take a step back, that the easy part was getting awarded a franchise name. But then the hard part is, okay, now you've got a franchise in the Naperville, Lisle area, but you got to come up with a name. And so when you start to go down that rabbit hole of, well, let's pick a name that's germane to the area we're going to be in, but you can't have anything that's already been used, right? So you can't be the Lumberjacks, you can't be the Fur Trappers or the Trappers. Now, all those are done. So you start to go down that like, wow, it's really hard to find something that is germane. And you look at all the minor league teams and, that's all about marketing, right? What logos look good, who's going to buy a hat just because they like the logo, that kind of stuff. So literally out of frustration, I was doing an internet search for mascots that aren't being used. And I came across this obscure article that a sports writer had written, 5, 6, 7 years ago on mascot names that he thought were pretty cool that were not being used. So it's the number one question we get is, how did you land on the pistol shrimp? And while they're not germane or native to the DuPage River, it's literally, that's how we landed on it. When you do your test groups, we would send our AB email tests out with a list of the top names we had, and pistol shrimp every time outpolled everything else that we had put up there. And so we got lucky. At the end of the day, we got lucky with that. And the reason I say we got lucky with it is for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a real creature, and you can Google it, and there's a lot of stuff out there. It's actually a pretty impressive creature. In fact, Will Smith just came. There's a Netflix movie which features the pistol shrimp. So it's kind of been. We obviously have a lot of fun with it. But from the business side, what I can tell you is 40% of our merchandise sales come from outside of Illinois. So that speaks to the idea that, hey, this is something that is fun and resonates. People see the logo and say, I want a T-shirt, I want a hat, and so forth. So obviously we're having fun with it. But that was 2019 in a flash. And the easiest part in looking back on the baseball side is the easiest part of these summer collegiate teams, at least from my experience, has been finding players. Because the reality is the college baseball players, there's not enough summer league teams to accommodate all the guys when you start to go through, the D1, D2, D3, the JUCO kids, the NAIA kids. There's a lot of college baseball players that are trying to find homes to play for the summer. So that comes together relatively quickly. So, for example, we're in the Prospect League, we can have 32 players. We've already got 30 contracts, and we're just holding back to see how the spring develops going into next year. And some of that is driven by the fact that COVID wiped out in pretty much the entire summer college season last year for everybody. So now there's really a glut on the market, right? Because with the NCAA giving everybody an extra year of eligibility, and not just graduating seniors, but all the way down to kids who were freshmen last year, there is a glut of college talent trying to find places to play. And I don't envy the college coaches that are trying to manage, 11.7 scholarships with 6 returning seniors that want to come back, and the JUCO kids that they're bringing in are the freshmen that they've recruited to replace them. I know, in theory, it's the right thing to do to bring everybody back and do all that stuff. But when you get down to blocking and tackling, like these college coaches have to do, their roster size, it still is what it is, and the number of scholarships they're dealing with are still limited to what it is. So obviously, our focus now is really hopefully get the world back to normal. For these summer league teams to make it, and the Prospect League is certainly in the mix of that, is we've got to have fans. And if we're still limited on the gatherings that we can have, that's going to be a real burden to all of the summer college teams.
Without a doubt. I mean, you mentioned some of the challenges of building infrastructure and building awareness as a prospect team, which, you're a new team, so that's going to, be challenging in and within itself. But let's look a little deeper into, some of the impacts that COVID had on Prospect League baseball, because obviously its impacts are universal, worldwide, seen everywhere. But on, the smaller baseball side, how did COVID, impact this past season? Obviously you were not able to participate in the actual Prospect League summer season. But you guys were able to get in some kind of a short season, correct?
Yeah, we were. So the Prospect League, for safety reasons around COVID, we waited as long as we could, but at the end of the day, we made the same decision that virtually all the other major summer collegiate leagues made, and that was, we're going to have to cancel the season. And so literally, and that's the hardest email to send out to your sponsors and to your fans and to your players in particular. So literally the day the Prospect League press release went out, I got a call from the general manager of the Joliet Slammers, which is a professional team that plays in the Frontier League. And he called and basically said, hey, look, we are the city of Joliet's our land, our leaseholder. We went to the mayor's office and said, hey, our season's, the Frontier League's not happening. We need to do something to be able to pay rent, just like everybody else. And they had proposed to run a 6-week summer league season. So the GM had called me and said, hey, would you consider entering your team into our Joliet, summer league, which we're going to run June through the third week of July, to get some guys to get games in, inside the stadium. So we jumped at it with, when we go, but as a prospect league member, we weren't able to play as an official prospect league team. So we played in our batting shirts, no prospect league logos or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it was our same Pistol Shrimp baseball team that we would have had we been able to get in a season. So we were able to get in a nice 21-game season. And initially at the stadium, no fans allowed. But eventually they started letting in parents and families. So, but what I'll tell you is we did that. And at the same time, our partners in Normal ran a summer league and a fall league, actually, that worked out really, really well for the teams in Normal. And I know O'Fallon and Quincy had teams and players in it. And that was really cool. And because of our relationship, we actually were able to play some exhibition games against some of those teams on our off days as well. So we were able to go down to Normal and get a few more games in down there. But what I will tell you is, especially for the ball players, they really appreciated the ability to play, even if it was 21 games, because, their college spring got wiped out. And as young men, they're experiencing really for the first time something getting taken away from them that they've kind of taken for granted their whole life. So it was not surprising to me, but at the same time, I was genuinely moved by how happy they were to be in the yard. With all the craziness that's going on outside the stadium, we get to play baseball for 3 hours and play the game as hard as we can, and not have to worry about any of the craziness that's going on in the world outside it. So I was super, super appreciative of the fact that we were able to give these guys some games. And it was just, it was good salve for the soul. It really was.
I mean, absolutely. And I think what these smaller little summer leagues that we're, able to get put on, whether it's the Car Shield Collegiate League that ran for 6 weeks in O'Fallon, or the leagues that, you were able to take part in, honestly, that really offers such an important developmental time, not just for the guys who are already going to play in the prospect league, but we see that small leagues like that actually offered a way for minor or major league talent around the country to get some reps in. I know Noah Vaughn of the Athletics, I believe, he spent some time with the Slammers this past summer. We saw guys like Jake Berger in the Car Shield Collegiate League. So I mean, these smaller summer leagues offer a really great way for guys to get those reps in and get that developmental time that obviously just wasn't available this year. Michael, I know you actually had a really great question.
Yeah, so kind of surrounding that whole developmental thing with these summer leagues, obviously a lot of these guys are coming from a variety of different places and colleges, conferences and whatnot. And we see that some of these guys are actually with pro teams. I mean, you talk about Berger. There were a couple other guys that I knew of in the Car Shield League. Did you personally have a chance to coach anybody that is either currently on a pro contract or in the past? Have you ever gotten to coach anybody in one of these summer leagues that ended up going through the minors, possibly making it to the major leagues?
The quick answer is yes. Obviously we're 1 year into actually formal prospect league, so we don't have the history yet. But we had my closer from 2019 was signed by the Rockies and had a real good fall or late summer short season with the Rockies back in 19. This year we actually had scouts down at Joliet, and we had one of our pitchers from Miami of Ohio was offered a non-drafted free agent contract. He chose not to sign, in part because there's no place to put these kids even if they sign. So he thought he would. So he's going to go back to school. So I've got one in the system now. I've got a couple other that I know will get signed. And that whether they get drafted or get signed as a non-drafted free agent remains to be seen. But the league itself, if you look at the history of the league, it's close to 200 players that have moved on, and I want to say 80 of those have actually had major league service. So the league has put a lot of people into professional baseball and all the way up, obviously, to the major league level.
I think the prospect league, just from the little bit that I've gotten to experience so far, is in such a really cool and unique niche where it's of course it's entertainment and you're, connecting with your community and you want to serve the fans and everything. But you're in this really cool spot where you get to see, it's the whole idea of the prospect league itself is you get to see, the future stars today. And whether it's a guy who could be drafted or a guy who's already part of a major league system. I think that's so cool for, fans to be able to come out and see, in this, affordable and entertaining format. But
what I would add to that, Tyler, is I think you're exactly right. If you go to these games, a young kid, a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, they see a college baseball player in a uniform. They see it's a baseball player. That's somebody for them to look up to. So a lot of the teams, like our team, and I know a lot of other prospect league teams do it as well. We let the kids run the bases after the game, and we have our players our players all participate. And it's how you build. The kids love it. They literally don't know if it's Alex Rodriguez or, they just see, they get a chance to run on a baseball field, which is pretty special. And they get to get autographs from baseball players in real baseball uniforms. And it also, the reality is it's meaningful for our players to be able to play in the prospect league, because if we're being honest, unless you're a baseball player at an SEC school or a Power 5 conference, and even the Power 5 conference, you're not playing most of your games in front of 1,000 people. You're just not. The typical college, you could shoot a cannon through most of the stadiums. You're gonna get in and get a great seat at pretty much any college game during the spring. And so for these players, the Prospect League average attendance in 2019 was 1,100 fans a game. Okay? The majority of the college players are not playing in front of 1,100 fans a game, number one. And number two, they're not playing that many games. We play 60 games in basically 70 plus days. So there's, they're playing baseball every day, which is also, a change for them from what their normal college routine is. So it gives them an opportunity to see, hey, what's minor league baseball? What's the grind? I want to, what's it really like? And so we give them a small sample size of what playing every day, forgetting about last night's loss because you got another game today, and jumping on the bus, and kind of grinding through it, what that's all about.
Yeah, being able to get that kind of exposure for these guys who are, still young and developing over the course of a 60-game season. Like you said, that's for the level of ball they would be playing. That type of exposure is, almost unprecedented. The prospect just offers a lot of cool ways in terms of, players to get that development in the summer where they might not otherwise, and also provide entertainment for those communities. Looking to the future of prospect league baseball involves taking a look at baseball as a whole right now. And, obviously we see the impact that COVID had on the major league season and, unfortunately what it did to the minor league season, which was cancel it entirely. Which is something we saw, universally with a lot of smaller leagues and whatnot. Looking forward, though, we are seeing, quite major changes to the current minor league format and, the amount of teams that will exist moving forward. But, we'd be remiss not to acknowledge what kind of impact that could potentially have on the prospect league, which is, still adding teams and a lot of the teams are, in that young infantile stage. So, really just wondering what kind of impact do you think, the redistribution of the minor leagues could have on a league like the Prospect League and specifically the Pistol Shrimp?
Yeah, there's a lot we can unpack with that, because even before COVID reared its ugly head, Major League Baseball's professional baseball agreement with minor league baseball was expiring or expired at the end of September. So obviously, anybody in that industry, in our industry, has been following the goal of Major League Baseball to consolidate a lot of the minor league teams, and that's obviously is in the process of happening. So, I think it starts with Commissioner Manfred's what he calls his one baseball, white paper on the goal from a Major League Baseball standpoint of taking control over the various, at both amateur and professional leagues, in terms of player development, from literally Little League all the way on up through high school, college, independent travel ball, the independent professional leagues. COVID certainly, I think, accelerated that, but the other obviously driver was the contract with minor league baseball expired at the end of September. So we know teams are being contracted, and they haven't listed, the final list yet, but we also know that Major League Baseball has been reaching out. They've already issued some press releases that they're going to be affiliated partner leagues with the Frontier League and the American Association. In the Appalachian League, the unique thing about the Appalachian League is that's a league that those teams are owned by Major League Baseball, right? They're unlike the other independent leagues or affiliated leagues. So the Appy League, if you follow what's going on with that, is Major League Baseball is they've contracted that, and they're going to convert that to a summer league. And part of their one baseball vision is to have that be college sophomores, rising sophomores, whatever term we want to use. So they want to use the Appy League for that, and then when those kids are, that turn into juniors, would funnel them off to the Cape Cod League. So, and obviously, I understand why Major League Baseball is doing it. They own those teams, and if they can create a mini Cape Cod type of environment without losing baseball in those Appalachian communities, that goes a long way in terms of avoiding some bad PR hits. So that totally makes sense. And I understand, why they're affiliating with some of these independent professional leagues. Those relationships, to be blunt, I would say are a little bit, not a whole lot more than a press release at this point. It's kind of a working framework that I don't think anybody can definitively say this is exactly what the relationship's going to entail. So when it comes to the Prospect League, what I can tell you from what's been shared with me as an owner is we do have an ongoing dialogue with Major League Baseball, as I'm sure other leagues do as well, just to get an idea of what that relationship could look like. And obviously there are teams that could potentially be contracted that would be in our footprint. That's something that I think we would take a look at. From Major League Baseball's standpoint, they hold all the cards. They want to reduce their operating costs, which is why you saw, this year obviously was just 5 rounds. But I think the days of a 40-round Major League Baseball player draft, they're gone. I think to be blunt, Major League Baseball, with their idea of saying, okay, each Major League team will have 4 affiliated teams, they're basically saying we don't need to have 45 rounds of drafts to fill up these minor league teams to have somebody to play against the 10% that we think will actually develop into major league talent. So I think that's part of what's driving it, but I also think they're looking at it from a scouting and player development standpoint, that if they affiliate with the Prospect League, for example, or the Frontier League, then some of the ones that they've already done, is I think they're looking at it from the standpoint of, if we put in the same measuring systems in these various leagues, whether it's Rapsodo or HitTrax or pick whichever vendor you want to use to measure stadium analytics, that they will have the ability to compare players across different leagues, because they're all on the same, would all be on the same metrics and all on the same analytical tools. I also think they would be, so I think their hope is it'll help on player development when they can measure across a much greater uniform database of players, and kind of modeling what they were already doing in the Latin countries, was setting up their academies and player development model down there. And that would include, potentially even the Prospect League, because they are going to be affiliated in some fashion with the summer collegiate leagues. Obviously, the Prospect League is going to be in that conversation because we're one of the premier leagues in the country. But we don't know exactly what that relationship could be. But again, from Major League Baseball standpoint, I think they're looking at not only reducing costs, but driving fan engagement and driving national sponsorship deals. So in addition to 30 major league teams and the 4 minor league teams, the very smart people are going to be able to package those deals and say, we've got these affiliated partner leagues, whether they're professional or summer collegiate leagues, all the way on down to, showcases at the high school level. I think that all ties into their one vision of baseball. But speaking narrowly to the Prospect League, we think it's a unique opportunity in the summer collegiate landscape, that they are clearly moving away from how business has been done with minor league baseball. That's pretty much evident even by what we know. But we don't know is exactly how that will play out next summer in the 2 to 3 years after that, other than we look at it as a great opportunity to showcase the players in our league. And if we can participate in whatever that affiliation with Major League Baseball could potentially look like, that we think it's a great opportunity. We're at 14 teams now in 6 states. And we know we've got a lot of interest from other communities. So we think, we're very much in growth mode. We're very much betting on baseball is one of those things that for a lot of Americans is mom and apple pie and feels very good. So the idea of being able to come back out and bring the family out and being able to watch a really high quality baseball game and still being able to not break the bank, that the fans will come back. If we address safety, we get a vaccine, don't get a vaccine, but figure out how we can do this stuff. Just evidence from the small sample size we got this summer, the demand was there. The demand was there. I know the team in Normal, the Corn Belters in their league, they actually did very well with in working with the city on limiting the capacity, but they have a big stadium where they could still bring in a decent sized crowd, still socially distanced, still able to sell some merchandise, still able to make some beer sales, which really, at the end of the day, really kept them afloat, which is why they're able to do it again this fall. So then the demand is there. And obviously we'll see what happens because the first thing domino that has to fall is Major League Baseball has to figure out exactly who's consolidated and what they're going to do, with those teams. So it doesn't affect the Prospect League, but if you're a team that's being consolidated, you're going to go to your state senator and say, hey, they're taking baseball away from us. So maybe we want to revisit the Major League antitrust exemption. All that, Bernie Sanders has made noise about that. If you take my team from Vermont, we're going to come after you, right? So Major League Baseball, at the end of the day, smart people will do the right thing. I think I've got confidence that they will manage it the right way and will make it as soft a landing as possible. as they can for those communities. Because I live in California, but I go to Montana in the summer, and there's there's a team that plays in Missoula, right? And they're in the Pioneer. That's one of the so that's a big deal. Some of these summer league short seasons, it all trickles down, from whatever Major League Baseball figures out the best way they're going to land with these minor league teams. But like I said, I'm ecstatic that our prospects are on the rise. The level of interest that we get from fans, still even in the off season, from our social media continues to grow, and there's a lot of great conversation in the league. The Prospect League has its semi-annual owners meeting next weekend in Indianapolis for a couple of days. So there will be a lot of great, and our commissioner typically holds back some cookies. So I'm looking forward to seeing what cookies he's got in store in terms of deals that are in the works, whether it's additional teams or league-wide sponsors that would be coming into it. So we're in a pretty good place. I really love our footprint in the upper Midwest, the states that we're operating in. One of the things is not only to be geographically consistent as close as we can, but because that also impacts travel costs, right? So if you're having to travel 8 hours to play, the economics, it doesn't work so good. But if you get a number of teams in a market, now all of a sudden you can really start to play a lot of different teams, but still keep your travel footprint, relatively manageable.
I think I personally am just so excited for the uncertainty of baseball in the future. Everything you spoke on, and just all of the new opportunities it's going to create, whether that be new sponsorship opportunities for the prospect teams or affiliated teams, or however that ends up working out, but also the ability to develop a track for these guys that may be a part of these affiliated leagues and really develop their track to higher levels of baseball, or maybe the majors. However that's going to work, obviously we are, like I said, it's still uncertain, and there's a lot to find out. But I mean, really, it's exciting for all levels.
And if you think about it, Tyler, if you're a college coach and that the Prospect League has has an affiliation, whatever that might mean, with Major League Baseball, and that might mean we're using the same measuring metrics and technology tools that the minor league baseball teams are using. The college coach is going to say, I want it helps my kids to have them go play in the Prospect League because there's going to be more scouts, there's going to be more fans, that they're using the analytics that they're going to be scouted on eventually or potentially drafted on. So it helps raise the profile of the league as well, where the level of player that we already get is extremely high, but it's just going to go that much higher. And I'm seeing that already as a small sample size. One of the players that has played for me in the past had an opportunity to play in the Appalachian League. So I had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago, just to see what he was doing for the summer, and making sure he was taken care of. And he said, Coach, I really wanted to come back and play in the Prospect League with the Pistol Shrimp, but I've got an opportunity. My coach got me into the Appalachian League. Right? And I wish him luck, because what he's doing is saying, hey, I see which way this is going. And if the Appalachian League is supposed to be a feeder into the Cape Cod League, I've got an opportunity to do it. I'm going to do it. And and that's exactly what he should do. Which is exactly what I told him, is to be able to go ahead and do that. So already I'm starting to, you'll start to see players going through that calculus that, okay, the Cape Cod League, not everyone's going to be able to get into that league. And has historically been the preeminent summer collegiate baseball league. And I think it'll remain that way. But Major League Baseball, and you could callously say they're taking care of themselves by setting up the Appalachian League to be that feeder into the Cape Cod League. But again, I don't begrudge them that. I would have probably done the exact same thing if I was Major League Baseball. But it does, it adds to that pecking order of the summer collegiate leagues potentially. But we're going to be right there. We're going to be right there. There are plenty of players that get drafted that never played in the Cape Cod League. You can just open up the rosters of the two teams that are in the World Series, and you're going to see the majority of them, didn't play in the Cape Cod League. So, we're going to be just fine. And the reason I know we're going to be just fine is I've already, like I mentioned, I'm already filled up 30 on my 32. I have to say no a lot more than I'm able to say yes. And I know my fellow owners in the Prospect League are in the same boat, that they have so much interest from colleges around the country trying to find a quality league to showcase their players. So we're in great shape. And I am so looking forward to climbing on a bus all day long next summer, because to me, that's what normal is all about. That's what normal is all about, and hearing the crack of the bat and all that good stuff.
We have a lot to be excited for in the future of baseball, and hopefully 2021 will spell a much more normal and what we're used to type season. And I know I'm personally excited, Michael as well.
Oh yeah.
John, thank you so much. That is going to wrap us up for today. Once again, thank you for letting us know, more about what Prospect Baseball is about, how you chose the name of the Pistol Shrimp. But again, what I love about that is it is just, it's unique and weird, but that's what baseball is about. That is baseball's niche, and I love it. But once again, thank you so much for this. Be sure to check out Pistol Shrimp at Pistol Shrimp Baseball on Instagram. You can find them you guys are on Facebook, Twitter. You guys have an awesome TikTok. I love it.
Do you have a MySpace?
We
That's
have
what
great
all the
interns.
kids are on now.
I got a great general manager who's found some great interns. So I wish I could. I can't claim credit for any of that, but thank you, and thanks a lot for having me, Tyler, Michael. This has been great. Look forward to if we get some news in the next few weeks, maybe have me back on, and we could talk some more Prospect League baseball.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much. This was episode 68 of the Squeeze Baseball Podcast. Make sure to check us out on all the platforms where you can get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. Just check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. That's going to wrap us up. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, fellas.